please visit my website, programtokill.net. Go to plans and prices for even more exclusive information. You can also support me now on Patreon. Add me on TikTok. And leave a like and comment.
Of human bodies, all but 2 snatched from graves during the past dozen years. Saturday Gein's home presented an exterior giving little or no hint of what was inside, but in a dark corner of the summer kitchen, Gein had lovingly decapitated and eviscerated Mrs. Worden's body. It hung dressed out like a deer from a beam. Nearby, as if waiting, dangled an empty block and tackle. In custody, Gein left behind the accumulated litter of a disorganized mind, parts of female bodies, and a pulp story reflecting the interior disorder. A Honeymoon of Horror seemed an appropriate title. In contrast to the rest of the house was the parlor, the room in which Ed's mother spent her last days, railing against the sins of modern woman. Ed, now 51, had venerated Augusta Gein. After her death, he sealed off the room, had tried, in fact, to become a woman by investing himself in female flesh.
Frank Otto, what do the citizens of Plainfield think after some weeks have passed now about the whole situation? What are they hoping for here today?
Well, I think they're hoping for something definite. I do believe that if they bring him to trial, if it be that way, that more people will be satisfied that something definite is coming from it.
You think then that he is competent to stand trial?
Well, I wouldn't say that, but I think most of the people around figure that he is. And it's for experts to say for sure, but I think more people would be satisfied if he was brought to trial.
approximately 5 minutes, Circuit Judge Herbert O. Bundy will begin the sanity hearing of Edward Gein, the so-called butcher of Plainfield, Wisconsin. As we can see, there are some 150 persons seated here around this courtroom in the extremely modern Wood County Courthouse. In just a few moments, the representatives of the state and the defense will take their place at the tables at the front of the courtroom, and right now we are awaiting the appearance of Judge Bundy. Here you see it, George, but now you don't. That's right. Reduced to ashes overnight was the infamous farm residence of Ed Gein, burned to the ground a scant 4 months after Plainfield's House of Horrors yielded up the parts of at least a dozen human bodies. That's the what of the story. Now let's attempt to find out the why. Plainfield Village Board member Frank Otto and a leading member of his community. Frank, what had been destined to happen to this house?
Well, they were going to have an auction on a week from next Sunday to sell off the household furnishings and the farm.
Was there any Plainfield resistance to this Palm Sunday auction?
Yes, I think there was. There was a lot of it, especially from the clergy, and most of the men on the street didn't like the idea of having it on a Sunday, and especially Palm Sunday.
Was there any commercial aspect to the auction?
Well, they didn't like the idea either of trying to commercialize on something like this. Especially didn't they want to see some individual, other than maybe the county or people that had money due them, try to capitalize on it.
And what does the Plainfield man on the street think now that the Gein farmstead has burned down?
Well, I think they're somewhat, let's say, relieved and more or less, let's say, unconcerned about it. They don't seem to care whether anything is happening from now on. We'd like to close it, and this seems like one way to do it.
The clergy might see the hand of God in this fire. Does anyone else see another possible hand in here?
Well, that's up to the fire marshal or the sheriff to say something like that. I wasn't even out here with the fire department, so I wouldn't know.
Well, County Sheriff Art Schley, is your office investigating the possibility of arson, sir?
Yes, we are, with the help of the fire marshal.
Wisconsin Fire Marshal.
That's right.
Had you any reason to suspect that this might happen before the auction?
Well, it's a hard question to answer.
But the house certainly posed a temptation.
Well, in a way, yes.
There will be an auction here Palm Sunday, but this house and the personal belongings of Ed Gein will be conspicuously absent. Call it an act of God or whatever you will. The main attraction will be missing, reduced to a mass of rubble by a mysterious fire. Well, that's our report from here in Plainfield. Now back to you.
At this hearing, in which 3 doctors gave testimony, 3 psychiatrists, that the defendant Edward Gein is without question in my mind at this time insane. Within the meaning of the law, it appears that Dr. Milton Miller, Dr. E.F. Schubert, both were of the opinion unqualifiedly that the defendant was legally insane. As to Dr. Burns, who differed with them somewhat, he found the defendant medically insane to a high degree. He stated that although the question as to whether or not the defendant was legally insane was not a borderline question, it was close to a borderline question. It would appear, therefore, that the evidence produced at this hearing is overwhelming, that the defendant is and has been insane for something like 10 years.
As long as Ed Gein remains in Wautoma, Wisconsin, he will be a prisoner in the county jail. Gein was moved to the jail Monday from a mental institution as preparations began for his trial on charges of murder. Gein, Sheriff Virgil Batterman told KSTP News, will spend his time at the jail between court appearances like any other prisoner, mostly just sitting in his cell, reading or thinking. Batterman said the jail isn't set up for long-term prisoners and hoped Gein would not be in occupancy during the time when he is not actually appearing in court. A note of caution crept into the sheriff's voice when he talked about any possible difficulties because of the new prisoner. It seems to me the other day you mentioned to us on the phone that there's a lot of resentment around here about the whole affair, and some people told us up in the hall today it's all kind of foolish. Do you expect any difficulty from the people because of this?
Well, not actually. There are a few that are talking about what might happen, but I don't figure on anything.
It represents a change for Gein, from the rather comfortable Central State Hospital at Waupun, where he has spent the last 10 years, to the gray cells of the jail in Wautoma. This is Tom Ocker, KSTP News.
It was a crime that shocked the small town of Plainfield, Wisconsin, and the country. Edward Gein accused of killing a woman, then gutting her body like a slaughtered deer. As more details about Gein came out, he became known as the Butcher of Plainfield, Wisconsin. Skip Nelson and Bud Meyer covered the Gein story for KSTP TV back in 1957.
These are the pictures we shot, and they just are incredible to look at. What was incredible is that they left everything just as it was. And we were able to take pictures.
Gein also admitted to digging up 9 to 10 bodies, mostly women, from cemeteries between 1950 and 1954. He would use those body parts and bones to make lampshades and other furniture. Human skulls were also found on his bedpost. He would also wear dead female body parts.
Skin the victims and the object of the grave robbery and assume those parts, so thereby become a woman.
The accounts outraged the Plainfield community. Gein's home mysteriously burned to the ground 4 months after he was arrested. 34 years have passed since the bizarre and gruesome Ed Gein case, but now recent news accounts of the Milwaukee murders have brought back memories of the Gein story.
It's just incredible when you think about the physical location of two bizarre situations like this in the same state, probably within 100 miles of each other.
Gein spent his life in a mental institution. He died July 26, 1984. I'm Carolyn Brookter reporting.